Hey, David, what was your first computer? And by the way, David de la Bassi, is this pronounced right?
That's very good.
Very good or perfect?
Very good.
Okay, what would be the perfect pronunciation?
De la Bassi.
De la Bassi. Is French?
C'est.
C'est.
Yes, that's French. De la Bassi, yeah.
Perfect. So what was your first computer?
So my first computer was, I think, like everybody from our generation, Commodore 64.
Not everybody. So there were ZX Spectrums, TRS-80, but something related to Spectrum or C64. Or Amigas. I had a couple of Amigas as well.
Yeah, but that was not the first one. So I had a 64, then a Commodore 128, and I moved to the Amiga.
So now I'm curious. You start immediately coding, or what was your first time with your C64?
Well, I started, honestly, playing games back then. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that intrigued me, and I wanted to understand how things works under the hood. So I started trying to code first, and then coding. First.
So, and what was do you remember your first game?
No, I don't remember. No, I mean, it's so long. I play a lot of games, and I'm still playing games, in fact. So, but I don't remember which one it was, the first one.
So the very first one I remember was something about pirates. I forgot the title, Treasure Island or something like this. But and the others I remember now. Right now, more and more games from back then. And maybe they become relevant again with the Raspberry Pi movement.
Yeah, well, yeah, but yeah, I'm not. We can discuss about that emulation versus real. Running the hardware on an FPGA, for example.
Yeah. I have no idea about that, but so we shouldn't discuss this. So more interesting. So you started playing, and then you said you would like to attempt coding.
Well, I wanted to understand how things works under the hood. So basically, playing a game is nice, but I wanted to. Well, to me, it was easy. Well, it should be easy to do such a thing. So I started to pick under the hood, and boy, it was not that easy.
Exactly. And which programming language you used? Basic.
Yeah, Basic. Yeah, back then, Basic, and then not immediately, but I had to look at assembler also.
Yeah, of course. But what's make me curious? So you saw the game, and then you attempted to change something. So how you did it? I mean, how you learned Basic, or what was because the game runs, and then if you try to change it, do something. So was your motivation to create a new game or change the existing one, or what you did? The very first line of code, or the couple of days with Basic. What happens? What was your approach?
So my idea was I wanted to make games too. Okay. And I don't know if you remember back then, but we had a print magazine, where you had listings of games.
Yeah, of course.
And you spend hours to type the games, and then you hit runs, and it doesn't work.
Exactly. Have you ever worked in your case?
Yes.
In my case, no. I didn't manage to do it. I tried a couple of times and it never worked. Yeah, that's the problem.
But that's the beauty of typed language.
yeah. Or not be able to type. To prevent errors during typing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There were no IDEs basically, so there was not even terminal. So you could. The operating system was the programming language in my case, right? In your as well. Yeah. Okay. So what was the first successful thing you did? Hello World was not. I didn't know about Hello World back then.
I would say the first thing that works and was used was a pretty basic application that I did for my dad.
What was it?
But pretty basic. So he was playing, I don't know how we say that, but horse races.
Okay.
So basically I was tracking for him some statistics. But honestly,
this is great. How old were you back then?
Oh, I don't remember. I'm still young. So
yeah, still young. So now you are 16. So we're around 12 or what was it?
Yeah, something like that. But honestly, if you look back, it was super interesting because I learned a lot of things. But it would have been more pragmatic to do what I did using a computer by hand. But obviously, that would mean that I wouldn't have the chance to learn everything that I learned doing those kind of pretty basic application.
Yeah, but it's almost always the case, right? You could always download something which works kind of, but if you create it from scratch, you learn more. And in one point of time, even it could work better than the generic thing.
Yeah, or it's like when you have to do a task, you have the choice: either you do it manually or you create a script. Exactly. Obviously, if you have to do the task once, maybe the script would be too expensive. But when you start to script things, that's something that you can leverage later on, and you can also learn more by doing that.
Yeah. Exactly. So, but the horse game management, horse race management game software.
Horse management sounds already very fancy. I would say, basic horse statistics applications,
Okay.
something
But
like that.
were you able to save the state?
Yes.
How you did it? You remember that?
Well,
Yeah.
wait. There's two things: save the states and recover the states.
Okay. You were
So
just
I
yeah.
was able to save the states,
Yeah.
but recovering was something else. So
Okay. So this was a eventual consistency. You recovered it, you save it consistently, but in one point of time, you would be able to recover that, right? This is the base.
Yeah. So the workaround back then was basically to hard code the data into the code.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because I think in Turbo Pascal, I was able to save. In Basic was hard, or I don't even remember. It was impossible. I was always, curious how to do that because you had to use the tape, right?
That was the main issue. I mean, the physical media was, well, you could save on tape, but that was, that was very difficult. Mm-hmm. So as soon as we had access to a floppy disk, then the whole world changed. We're able to easily save a state that we can recover later on.
Mm-hmm. So your first thing you created was the basic horse statistics, or with something before,
No, before I did a few some basic games, Hangman, those kind of things. Then I put some graphics on top of that, but nothing very fancy. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not the goal was not really to play a game. It was really to understand how you can write a game, how you can write an application.
When you understood pick and pokes, you remember?
Yeah, when
after a while,
not really, but it was really the gateway to a lot of things.
Yeah,
pick and poke on the For people who are listening us, if they don't know what pick and poke is, they won't understand. But it was really the gateway to have access to the internal of the machines.
But GraalVM could provide such a thing again, right? Actually.
Well, I'm not sure.
we have to ask, the GraalVM engineers whether the pick and poke would be possible or doable, or not the Graal, the new Gen I gateway. I was called Panama.
You mean Panama? The foreign memory access API.
This would be actually a great question to our Panama engineers. Now, what about pick and pokes? Okay, I was not that lucky. In my magazines, there were only the numbers without explaining what it is.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, it was like it was crazy because I tried for loops to try to find out what it does, and I knew that it reads something and writes something. For me, it was always the question how to know what happens if you put a number. Why someone else is so smart and is able to think about a number and it works? Because with pick and pokes you could cheat, right? So if you knew the poke, I think, or the pick, then you could have endless life in a game, for instance.
Yeah, but I think one of the chances you had in Germany is that, so if we look back then, we didn't have an internet. So basically accessing information was very difficult. Mm-hmm. I think that the chance that you had in Germany is that you had a lot of magazines and a lot of books written for Commodore 64 and so on, which was not really true for me. I mean, if you look at the French-speaking side, there were very few books back then on, for example, programming on the C64.
For me, it was worse because I had the ZX Spectrum and all the magazines were about C64 and Amiga. Actually, there was almost nothing about Spectrum. And the worst thing is I got the ZX Spectrum with the actual manual in French. I don't know why. And I don't understand French. So what I only understood some kind is the basic code inside the manual. So I try now to write it down and see what happens. So we were in very similar situation, I would say, right?
So are you saying that you were one of the 5 people in Germany to have a Spectrum?
I think so. I got this. There was the 128K Amstrad, and I don't know why I got it. My dad bought me this, and I just got it, and I was delighted. But C64 was the thing, right? So it had better graphics, everything was better, and this was a dream machine for me. But I really enjoyed it at the time, so it was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is amazing. So you learned from the magazines, basically, right?
Yeah.
Okay, this is understandable. Okay, so after the basic horse statistics software, what happened then? When you left, basic and started with something else, with assembler or?
No, so after the Commodore period, I went to the Amiga period.
500, Amiga 500.
Yes, 500, and my brother had a 2000.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was very well. At the end, I was using his Amiga more than he was using. Is Amiga. But at that time, I was mostly playing games. I was not really into programming onto the Amiga because it was, purely back then assembler. And, I really didn't have, I was not really interested anymore in understanding how things work because mainly of the lack of information.
Hmm. Amiga was what I remember was like machine from a different planet. So the graphics were just
Yeah,
incredible for me back then. I
yeah,
remember, and the sound as well. So it's for me, it was like we knew it's at Spectrum, and you look at Amiga, or I think the Atari ST something was similar. This was the competitor also. So the two machines was incredible actually.
yeah. The Atari ST was the competitor, but it was lower in terms of graphics quality. It was better in the sounds departments. I mean, a lot of musicians were using Atari ST
Okay.
with MIDI support. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So what you played with Amiga? Nothing interesting happened. I would say. What happened after your
Af-
gaming
so
break?
after that, I moved to the PC.
Okay.
And it's where things really started. So I started to program. I think it was Pascal, Turbo Pascal, Delphi.
Why that? So where you started coding again, and what PC was it? Was it 286 or 3,
Yeah,
4?
I don't remember. I had a bunch of PC clone.
Okay.
I don't remember. Oh wait, no, I remember the first PC that we had at home was on the Amiga 2000 you can have a card that you slide in. It was an
Oh,
XT. It was a very basic 186 PC basically on a board that you put into the Amiga 2000.
I didn't knew that. So and you
Yeah,
could somehow boot PC inside Amiga,
yeah. It was really a PC on a board that you put into your Amiga. So
and you
yeah.
could switch at the beginning between Amiga or PC or how?
No, I don't remember how it was working. I think that you were into the Amiga operating system, and then you could access the PC
Okay.
on your inside board. Yeah,
Interesting. So it's almost like Apple M1, right now. So they have a Rosetta and I mean almost. Or back then, they were two systems inside the one. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And why you started programming back then again and not playing?
Why I started programming back then? Well, things were a little bit easier. I mean, using high-level language such as Turbo Pascal, for example, you can get to the endpoint more easily. And also, as we mentioned on the Commodore 64, saving the state was a nightmare. Then we had floppy disk, we had hard disk. I had my first hard disk on the Amiga, which was, I think, a 47 megabyte hard disk.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a video recorder. It was a big box.
Mm-hmm.
But on the PC, when we moved to the PC, obviously we had access to hard disk. So basically, things were more approachable. We also had access to more and more information on how things were working. So that's really started me to willing to start to programming, but more seriously.
And what was your motivation? What you would like to achieve, or what you would like to program? Game again, or what?
No. So since my childhood, I was always into computers, video games, and so on. So I wanted to work within that space. It was really the thing that was interesting me the most. So that's why I wanted to program, just to create programs. It doesn't really matter if it was a game or an enterprise application or any kind of application. I wanted to program. At the end of the day, I wanted to make it that my full-time job.
Perfect. And were you interested more in the machines? I mean, I was fascinated by the hardware as well. So I really like the hardware, playing with the thing and how it looks, how it felt. Or were you purely interested in programming, or was it both?
I think it was both, because back then if you look at the PC back then, you basically had to either build off-the-shelf PC, but most of us were just assembling a PC. So we had a case, we bought a motherboard from that shop, and a video card from another shop, and we leveraged an old hard disk that we already had. And so yeah, the hardware play a big role back then. But I think that if I look back, it was always the software side that was interesting me the most. But you had to understand how things works otherwise back then.
Okay. So what was your first interesting program or software you've written on the PC? You remember that?
I don't really remember which one was the first one. I do remember that I wrote a very stupid application during my study, and my teacher was amazed.
You studied computer science?
Yes.
So it was always clear to you that you would like to study computer science?
Yes.
Okay.
So that pretty stupid application was it was basically a person vectorized that was walking.
Wow.
Yeah, but it was pretty stupid.
No, it's stupid, but this is crazy. I mean, even now, if we would like to do this, let's say in Java, you will probably do spend more than 1 day with it, right now.
I don't know, but yeah, I spent quite some time. I don't remember how much time I spent, but yes, I spent some time. And also during my study, something that I started with a friend was a BBS.
Could you remote control the person, or was it just like a demo?
No.
Like a screensaver?
It was just crossing the screen.
Okay, and this was in which programming language?
It was in Turbo Pascal.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, to go back to my study, I started with a friend, so BBS, a bulletin board systems.
Okay.
So I was also very interested in basically being able to connect a computer. You know, back then it was where we were using phone lines. I mean, analog phone lines. So it was well, I was always amazed by the fact that you take the handset, you put it on a physical modem back then, and somehow you were able to control remotely a computer. That was magic to me.
Well, remember the movie War Games, of course, right?
Yeah, I think that had some influence on me.
Yeah, and I skipped this, but I started with the U.S. Robotics modems. Actually, I never had the chance. I think it's called acoustic coupling or something. There was like additional device where you can reuse the earphones, or how to call it. And
the headset. Yeah, but the baud rate, I mean, with acoustic coupler was very low.
Yeah.
So the speed, the latency, obviously you had to go through audio signals. So that was magic, but that was super inefficient.
Yeah. And but I remember also the sound. The sound of the modems was very similar to the sound of ZX Spectrum loading. From the tape.
So that was basically the same concept.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that so we switched at some point to a modem. So no more. You are plugging directly the phone lines to the modem. Mm-hmm. We had U.S. Robotics, but we also had Zixel modem. We had a bunch of modems, mm-hmm. and all of that was in my bedroom.
Okay.
So that was super noisy. So I wasn't there during the week. So I only stayed there during the weekend, and most of the time I was not sleeping in my room.
Okay.
But I was able at some point in time. So when someone was calling, I was able to hear from the tone. So the negotiation tone. Mm-hmm. Okay, this guy is calling in 9,600 bauds, for example. Mm-hmm. So I was able to to just by hearing the sounds know exactly what type of modem we had on the other side of the connection.
This was I not able, but what I was able to hear whether the connection is going to be successful or not. So because at the beginning you can tell whether it repeats or not, and whether it is going to be successful or not. This is what I remember. And on the ZX Spectrum, I was able to hear what is loaded, because it was a sound pattern, so you could recognize like a song, so you could tell which game or software was loaded actually. But with modem, I was not that great with recognizing what's going on. Okay, great. So, what was the next, software you wrote during your study? So, or when you stopped using Turbo Pascal and started with something else?
So, in my study, I also wrote a terminal application.
Okay.
Well, again, this is back to I was amazed by modem, so I wanted to understand how things works. Mm-hmm. So, we had 80 commands to control a modem. Mm-hmm. So you send a 80 and then a command to the modem. So you open a serial connection you open a connection through the serial ports, and you connect to the modem, and then you can send a command to the modem. Mm-hmm. So when I discovered that, I wrote a terminal application.
Okay. And what you could do with it? So to communicate with others, right? Or
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's typically the application that you would use to connect to a BBS.
Okay. And were you able to share it, or was it just for you? Or
yeah, so it was shared, but I mean, I'm pretty sure that there were not a lot of users. Well, I didn't have a lot of users. Mm-hmm. Because I mean, it's not like so today. If you have an application, you create a GitHub repo, then you provide builds, and everybody can leverage it. Can easily find that application through Google, and then if it's good, people will download it and start to use it. Mm-hmm. Back then, it was not really like that,
Yeah, I thought at the university there was some folder where you can put the software and the other would pick up something like this.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Only people from the university basically, and possibly a few friends would use that application.
Yeah, it's good enough. I mean,
yeah.
And so what was the next steps? So and you, by the way, you enjoyed the university, or you try to learn as fast as possible and do the real thing afterwards? So what was your relation to university?
It's hard to say. I think what I learned during my studies, basically, I learned how to learn. Because a lot of the things that I learned back then are not relevant anymore. For example, I use VAX VMS.
Okay.
I mean, well, I haven't touched a VAX VMS since, I don't know, 30 years.
Yeah.
But anyway, so a lot of the things that I learned are not really relevant anymore. But what I learned during my studies, basically, I need to be able to learn things.
And enjoy learning, probably, right?
Well, yes, you are. Yeah, obviously. Yeah. Because if you don't enjoy learning, you won't learn. Exactly. And basically, you are stuck.
Okay, perfect. So anything else you did, at the university with programming, interesting software, like, walking people on the screens or other programming languages you learned at the university?
I don't remember, but I have an anecdote. So I spent a few weeks. So during my study, I spent a few weeks in England, near Liverpool, in a bank. That was part of the curriculum. You had to work. And so I wrote documents about. So I was in the telecommunication department. So I wrote documents, and well, I wasn't sure if people were reading what I was writing. So at some point in time, in one of the documents, I talk about resiliency of communication between different sides of the banks. And I put something like, okay, we need to have a failsafe systems. And basically, I introduced the idea that if everything breaks, we need a failsafe system that is based on pigeon. So from one building, you just let a pigeon fly to the other building, so you still have the ability to send information. Okay. I put that as a joke, and well, nobody really reacted. Everybody told me, okay, this is a great document, but nobody really reacted on that pigeon jokes. So I'm not sure if they really read what I wrote.
This is incredible. I did exactly the same in a commercial project. It was, and this was like transportation system, a huge one. And I was in charge of writing the document. And I had the suspicion no one will read it. And what I did is I found a chapter from Perry Rhodan, science fiction. And there was, and this was not chapter, but I think only one side. I put only one page from this novel, science fiction novel. And I remember there were UFOs involved, and astronauts. It had nothing to do with transportation system. And this document was reviewed a couple of times, and it passed, all the gateways. Everything was successful. And then my project lead, I told them afterwards, look, this what I did was waste of time. And I said, okay, you can do this, you cannot do this. And the next time, what I proposed is, because we had to write the documents, because there was, they were required in order to pass to put the software in production. So what I did, I found the best software ever. It was called Rational Rose back then. And my proposal was to generate the entire documentation as much as possible with little effort. And then we will write to ourselves, just, 10-pager, what it's all about, what the conventions are, transaction behavior, and so forth. And then he said, okay, this sounds reasonable. So I saved, a couple of weeks without not being, forced to write, documentation when no one's read. So this is amazing that you did exactly the same what I did. Yeah. But for me, I was too lazy with pigeons. I just copy and pasted a science fiction novel to the document, and it was a huge one, and no one recognized, actually.
And I didn't suggest to use Rational Rose.
Yeah, this was the improvement afterwards, because I proved, no one reads it anyway. So if we generate the entire documentation from the source code, we have the documentation who no one reads without any effort, and then we'll write for ourselves the 10-pager, very short, which is supposed to be read by the developers.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, but we do the same. You are the first, actually. We did something similar. So this was actually a nice hack for me. So I was really proud of that back then. But this was already late, 2004 or something like this, when I did it. So, and I found the documentation recently, actually. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. So after university, so you started working for which company? What you did afterwards?
So right after my study, I joined a small company, a software development company in Brussels. That company was working in a very specific niche market. One of the things that I worked on was, when you transport in Europe a chemical product, truck with chemical product, you need to have a document that with the chemical product to basically explain, okay,
harmful or not, or
yes. It's called a safety data sheet. So what to do in case of an issue. So what I did for that, I wrote a very basic word processor to write those safety data sheets.
Okay. In which programming language?
It was on C on Windows.
And you learned C then, or you knew C before?
No, I learned C during my studies.
Okay. And what happened then? Was it successful? You enjoyed C, or?
Yeah, I would say I enjoy C. Obviously, it was way more difficult. I mean, it was easy in C to introduce bugs.
Yeah. And was it on Windows?
Yes.
So you had to use the MFC, I think, classes, whatever, right? The
it was
Microsoft Foundation.
Yeah, but I'm not sure it was already called MFC back then. It was on Windows 3.1.
Okay.
So I'm not sure it was MFC. I don't
remember.
You
moved in one point of time to C++, or you stayed with C?
I did a little bit of C++, but never wrote anything that went into production with C++.
Okay. So what happens after the company? So you switch the companies to learn C++ or Java?
No. So I spent 4 years at that company. So I also wrote. So those applications were mostly client-server application. So I also wrote a bit of backend for those applications. So it was again C, but back then it was on Motorola Unix.
Okay. Motorola Unix, interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. On a 68K CPU.
And which machine was it? Apple or was it?
No, it was Motorola servers, Motorola hardware servers. Yeah.
So they were called Motorola servers.
They were called Motorola something. Yeah, I don't remember. But
crazy. Yeah. Never heard about that. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Using a RIMA database.
How is it called, the database?
RIMA.
RIMA.
Yes, RIMA. It was, well, I was told that it was very popular back then, but, well, I'm sure they lied to me.
Okay.
So anyway, I spent 4 years there, and it's there, in fact, that I discovered Java. Applets. I still remember the first time that I saw that applet with Duke waving in the browser. That was big. Something that we did there was also we were looking at. Given that that company had a lot of customers across mainly Europe, we looked basically at how to talk to those customers. So it was before the web, so we look at different options, such as one of them was, there is a teletext.
Yeah.
It's called Minitel in France, and there has been an evolution of that, which was called, I think, MMI. It was basically a specification, a standard specification, multimedia something interface. So it was a super enhanced version of teletext where you could have graphics and so on, and it was backed by telco such as France Telecom.
In Germany, we had something similar. I think it was called BTX in Germany. So, but you had, if you bought, for instance, if I downloaded the software for the modem for U.S. Robotics, it was from German Telecom. I always got two options: go to the internet or invoke the BTX, the teletext. So I can look up the bank account, whatever, with the teletext, or I can switch to the internet if I remember.
But MMI was really the next version of that. So BTX, teletext, and so on is basically text-based. MMI was really graphic-based. We had more interaction capabilities and so on. So I spent a bit of time working on that. And while looking at that, I discovered the web. So we wrote a few website, yes, but using plain HTML. Then we look at CGI. And then in one of those investigations, I found out about Applet. It was, I don't know, early 96, maybe, end of 95. So it was really the beginning. Okay.
And you did something with the applets, or?
No.
Okay.
I was just amazed.
You were amazed, okay.
Yeah. No, because right after, I don't know, but a few weeks, maybe months after that, I left that company.
Okay.
So I joined the national telecom operator in Belgium, Belgacom back then.
Okay.
Yeah. To work on what we call the IP appliances. So the first one was a web phone. So you just take an iPhone basically, and you put that, 20 years ago, into a fixed phone.
Okay.
So a full-fledged fixed phone with a handset, with a keyboard. So I don't know, it was around 97, maybe, something like that. And that phone was running Java, personal Java back then.
Okay.
So I don't know if you know about personal Java.
This was the predecessor of the J2ME, so it was the very beginnings. There was
it was really the beginning. Yeah,
there was personal Java, and I think before Java E, it was called professional Java or something. There was this attempt to do the Java on the server or something, but exactly.
Yeah, so personal Java was before G2ME. That web phone was using a PowerPC CPU. Well, it was super interesting, but it was really the early days of trying to run. Well, first of all, it was the early days of Java. That's one thing. And then trying to run Java in the embedded world was really a crazy idea at that time.
Yeah.
Because well, for example, to boot the phone, I don't remember the figures, but let's say that the first time you had to boot the phone, it took like 15 minutes, which is a lot. I mean, it's okay because you boot your phones, well, I don't know, once in a month if you don't have any power shutdown. But anyway, so one of the issue was obviously the CPU was quite limited, but we increased the memory. So I don't remember again the figures, but let's say that we went from 8 megabytes of RAM, 8 megabytes. So not gigabyte, obviously 8 megabytes of RAM to 16. And the boot time went down from, let's say, 15 to 12 minutes, those kind of things. So we had, so in a nutshell, back then, it was really the early days of Java. Trying to run Java into an embedded device was really a challenge. So we were facing a lot of issue and a lot of technical difficulties.
Okay, yeah, I was in a similar project, but in Volkswagen, there's a car manufacturer, and I can talk about that because strangely they wanted that I talk about that. So I even had a conference talk back then, and so I created the prototype with a team. And we did everything, with layers, factories, everything we could replace because with different cars, with different layers and so forth. And it booted several minutes. And they say, this is impossible. We cannot just open the door and wait 5 minutes until it's there. So so what we did then is very similar what, the Micronaut is doing and Quarkus is doing. So we then removed all the reflection and just, hard-coded everything if we knew which configuration this is. So we generated a code in advance. And it sped up significantly everything. And then we hired some hackers in Poland, and what they did is they were able to load, the memory from parts of the memory of the JVM because I think the project was based on Cafe.org. I don't know whether you remember. There was a JVM, open source JVM from Dalibor Topic. Actually, he worked on that back then. He's also at Oracle, and this was open source JVM, and this was modified to run on this embedded device. At the end, it worked quite well actually, but the modifications were serious back then.
Yeah, and also the challenge is that basically, so you had a lot of limitations, and it's easy to say, for example, in our case, okay, let's double the amount of RAM. But obviously, given that we were talking about a consumer device, doubling the amount of RAM, even though we were going from 8 to 16, had a lot of had a serious impact on the price of the end user price of the device.
But such devices were common. So I remember I was at one of the Java ones, early 2000. I remember having phones on the desk with a Java logo on it. Yeah, so there was also a big screen. There was. I found such phones, and I even did some images back then. But I saw such phones. It was not from Belgium, but there were other manufacturers who created phones with embedded Java on it.
So probably from Alcatel,
maybe,
or Nortel.
Those were, I think. Yes. What I remember, Nortel somehow. Yeah.
Those were the two manufacturers that were really involved in that space.
And you enjoyed it, obviously, because
it was really an innovative project, and a lot of challenges. So it was way less boring than writing a word processor on Windows for chemical safety data sheets.
Yeah, I would say now I would also enjoy it once, but then it's time to do something else, right? Because if you do it the first time, we see could be also a challenge, for you.
Yeah, and also working in the embedded world was something really new for me. And also at that time, the market was evolving towards pushing more and more intelligence into device. So that was really exciting. And so we had the client side, but obviously there were the backend side to manage the device. So yeah, I really enjoy my time there.
What you did in the backend also ran Java?
For the web phone, it was not Java; it was a C-based application. But another project that I worked there was it was called Cyber TV. So it was a TV setup box, basically.
Oh, okay.
So no Java on the client side on the setup box, but the backend was using Java.
Remember what? What was it?
The backend?
Yeah, in Java, which server or what?
No, it was that's funny because that project we were working with a company that was called Navio, and Navio was a spin-off between Netscape,
okay,
I think Nintendo. Well,
wow.
I'm not. No, wait. I'm not sure about Nintendo and Oracle.
Okay.
So yeah, I remember visiting the headquarters of that company, and it was in Redwood Shores, a few miles away from. Yeah.
This is what I never knew. I know that Netscape and Sun are now cooperating together. So this was they had also the Suite Spot and all the servers backend.
iPlanet,
exactly.
iPlanet, AOL Alliance. Yeah.
But iPlanet was named later. It started with the name was Netscape Suite Spot server with where you can run actually JavaScript on the backend. This was the funny stuff, and then Java. Why I'm asking you, because I was also my history was similar somehow, except I didn't enjoy applets. So I really loved, C++. And then I looked at the applets and I say, you are all crazy. What's that? And but someone told me, who I respected, Java is the next big thing. This is object-oriented thing. And I downloaded the Oak something, and then it became Java. So I was lucky and then enjoyed that actually. But
so if I can make a comment, what amazed me about Java in the early days was not really the fact that it was object-oriented. I already had a background on OO, but if you were developing in the 90s, any application, and if you needed features, you had the choice. Either you write that features by yourself, or you buy a commercial third-party library that would provide that capabilities. Let's take for example FTP. So if you want to have FTP support in your application, you had to either implement the FTP protocol by yourself, or you had to rely and buy an FTP library from the market. In Java, you had a lot of, from the beginning, you had a lot of capabilities built into the platform, in the core libraries. You didn't have to go on the market and buy these capabilities to write your application. So that's one of the things that really amazed me back then.
So, but for me, it was, I had a Windows machine, but the C++ compilers were too expensive. So what I found out, there's a Linux with free C++, GCC and G++, what I remember. So I used Linux for that. And on Linux, there was, I think, STL. So the libraries were there, right? If you used open source GNU, I had everything I needed, but no one else had Linux. So what I did was just for fun. But there was no commercial, in one project, actually, I used a cross-compile Linux to Unix. It was my job was to write kind of compressor for Pro C++ for Oracle. So there's Pro C, I think is a preprocessor for the database or whatever. So this was one of my first commercial jobs with C. So I did it on Linux and hoped that it will compile on Unix. And so for me, Java was what I never got, the platform independence, because for me I was like, but how it can run everywhere, and if you just install Java everywhere, the software is like cheating, of course, if I install Java then it will run there. So for me it was at the beginning hard to understand what's the deal, but then I really enjoyed that. And I learned Java because someone convinced me I have to do it, or I respect, okay, then do Java and forget about C++. And then I got the first job on the server, and I only knew Java, so I was afraid to use C++ or CGI, for instance, with PHP. I had no idea about PHP. So I started with the Java web server from Sun. And this was the first servlet engine available on the market, and it came out. It was really Sylvester 2001 or whatever, so or 1999. And I waited until it's released, and then bought that. And this was the only chance to deliver, because I had no idea about other server-side programming. So I hoped you also used Java web server back then.
Yeah, but to go back on one of your comment where you said that Java was cheating because we had to install something to make it run anywhere. Yes, that's true. But at the end, as a developer, you still compile your bytecode once.
Yeah.
And with a C-based application, you had to compile that for, let's say, Windows, Unix, and so on. So you had to produce you had to target multiple platform from the beginning.
But back then, the problem is in my projects, in the early commercial Java projects, we had to install everything, right? So we couldn't just compile and deliver the bytecode. We were the DevOps and DevSecOps. This was the normal thing, that you were in charge of the server and the program. So I had to install the Java first on the machine or tell someone what to do, and then install on my machine and then cross-compile. So for me, it was okay. But I got it immediately. Immediately after a few weeks, I knew it. But I remember the first thing is the portability. Why? And this is like cheating. First impression, what I didn't like at all were the interfaces in Java. So I had the header files and the interface that didn't make any sense for me in Java. But then I got, if I reviewed, the JDBC driver, how this works. So, okay, this makes perfect sense. Yeah. But just interface, like, why that? Why? What problem does it solve? Okay, nice. So what happens afterwards? So you create, was the phone somehow successful or at least functional?
Please define successful.
You could, they were sold to people and someone bought it. So
technically some people bought it. It was sold, but not in Belgium, in France.
Okay, and you have still one?
I still have a few, yes.
Cool. This was exactly that you could start. To. It's always nice to look at the old hardware and how it looks compared to today's hardware, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing the evolution. It's amazing. So I worked, as I said, on that TV stuff, and then I moved to Sun. So I spent, I think, 4 years working at Belgacom, so the national telco. Mm-hmm. Given that we were working a lot with Java, we had a lot of interaction back then with the JavaSoft people, and that's basically how first I started to really like the Java things, and so I wanted to work more with Java, and that's how I started, and that's how I joined Sun. Yeah.
Okay, when was it? Roughly 2000, 2001?
Yes. I would say 2000, something like that.
Okay, interesting. So, by the way, do you remember the Java Developer Connection, JDC?
Yeah.
And Duke dollars?
Duke dollars.
So
no.
if you participated in the forum or you downloaded something, you could earn Duke dollars. And I had a lot of them, but not sure what you could do with it. But I was very proud of the Duke dollars back then, and JDC, Java Developer Connection, and JavaSoft, obviously. They were exactly. So you can even find the page on Internet Archives, and it is redirected now. I don't know whether I tried several times. It was redirected to Sun, and now to Oracle, and then to Java.org. Let's see whether it still working. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, and when I was still working at Belgacom, so 96 to early 2000, every year I went to no, not every year. I think from 97 I went to Java 1.
Okay. The first one was big or was small? The very first one. You remember the very first one?
I didn't go to the first one. So to the very first Java 1, I didn't go to that one because I was not already working in that company.
Okay.
But so I had a chance to attend every Java 1 then. So another reason why I wanted to be more involved within that Java ecosystem. I mean, it was really the boom of the whole Java space on the embedded side, but also on the server side. It was really the beginning of everything.
Mm-hmm. And what you did at Sun, what is your job?
So I had two jobs. So I was what we call the pre-sales. So I was in the field basically to explain products, so do POC demonstration and so on and so on. And another side job that I had, so there was an international groups called the Java Ambassadors. Mm-hmm. So it was a group within Sun, folks from all around the world, and we were gathering a few times a year in California, where we were discussing Java. And our goal was our charter was to do evangelism for Java. Mm-hmm. So that's basically how I started that whole. So we were called Java Ambassador, but we were basically evangelists. And those days, if we still had such a group, we would call them DevRel. Mm-hmm. So that was my initial, I would say, contact with that whole DevRel and developer space. So at Sun, I spent a lot of time to focus on developers, mostly Java developers, but also a bit because Sun had native tools. So I was also involved a little bit on that side of the house.
Was it mostly Java or?
Mostly Java, but also the C and C++ and also Fortran tools. But I would say that on the developer tool side, it was like, I don't know, 80% Java and the rest, 20% the rest was the native tools.
And how long you spent with that at Sun? So you had different roles, or you just this was the entire?
I stayed 10 years at Sun. So I stayed in the field, I don't know, for 6 years. Let's see. No, in fact, at Sun, I spent my whole career in the field, but always with that double hat. So pre-sales, but also Java ambassadors.
Okay. But you became Java E ambassador one time as well, right? Or Java E evangelist or something.
Yeah, but that was not at Sun. That was when we joined Oracle. So around 2010, Oracle acquired Sun. I kept my field role for, I don't know, 1 or 2 years. Then I moved to the Java E Glassfish organization.
When was it roughly?
I would say 2012, something like that.
Because I think this is where I the first time met you, and I was like, who are you? Because I never saw you before, or we never met actually, right? So this was at the time at Oracle, we met the first time, and I thought you are an Oracle employee, became interested, in Java E or something, and we had the first chats about, or I watched your sessions at the conferences, so this is our first we were in touch, I think. I don't believe we met at some times, right?
I think I remember you from a Java 1 session. Well, I was in one of your session or a boss.
Okay.
But don't tell me when, and it was about Java E or Glassfish for sure. But don't ask me any more details.
So the Java one, I have to say I was deeply impressed by Java ones. There were very special conferences actually with a special spirit, and the Sun people were. This is why it reminds in memory. They were, how to call it, a little bit crazier or more inspiring than the conventional conferences where you just have if you remember the keynotes,
Yep.
with Scott McNeely, John Gage, they were, and there was always crazy things happens, new ideas, new theories, which not always worked, but this was the inspiring. So I always wanted to go to Java 1, and this is one of the few conferences where I spent the entire week. So all other conferences I came and go, but Java 1 for me, and I attended all the sessions, 12 hours a day, and this was the thing, like a marathon,
Yeah, but there is a big difference. I agree with you that it was very inspiring, a lot of new things, a lot of new ideas, and so on. But there is a major difference between then and now. Now, everything is open source.
Yeah.
So back then it was easy to come with a surprise and let's say that, okay, we will do Java for this, or we'll have this new brand new Java API to tackle that space, And so an exec was coming on stage with a big announcement saying that, okay, we're going to invest in that space. Mm-hmm. Those days, it's not really like, well, we don't have that possibility anymore. Obviously, we say, okay, we will invest, for example, we'll work on Panama. Mm-hmm. And then, all the works happen openly in the open, outside of the firewall. So it's really hard to come with such big surprise,
Yeah, but I mean, it is not like, all the developers have time to track all the open source repositories. And back then, Java was also kind of open source. So if you had time, you could actually find out or, with contact with the employees, what Sun is working on. There were possibilities. But for instance, what happened at Java 1, let's say Panama or something like this is okay. Then I stop, investing my time in Panama before Java 1. And then I attend in one day, all the sessions about Panama from Oracle engineers. And then I can spend my or plan my time more efficiently. You know what I mean? So even now, you cannot just watch the entire Java space. But if you are Java 1, you say, okay, what's new? So then one day Panama, one day you can very efficiently attend sessions by Oracle engineers. This was always my plan, because they are building the stuff, and just hearing them, what they are talking and how they are presenting this, you get the ideas why they did it, why is that way. But if you listen to my talks, right, what I can just present is experience from the field. I have no idea what the engineer thought by building that, And even if there is open source, I mean, the truth is that the core people do the most work everywhere.
Yeah,
right. It's not like the entire Java community. There's always, there are key thinkers everywhere. It'll say, put Java aside, in Linux is the same. There was, a couple of people do the major work, and everyone else, or the strategy. You cannot be, you cannot have. You should have, or you have to have a kind of strategy or vision, And this is presented best by people who create division.
Yeah, no, I agree. But also one major difference between now and the early days of Java 1 is that now there are a lot more conference.
Yeah.
So basically, all the information, all the news is spread through the year through multiple conferences, such as, those days outside of the pandemics, we have Code Ones, but we have Oracle Developer Live, there's DevOps, and so on. So there's the FOSDEM, for example, for everything which is OpenJDK. So there are multiple milestone in the year where basically everybody is giving an update. So you have the ability to track more closely what is happening. So we don't have anymore this one times a year big conference where we give an update on everything,
But it could come back because, let's say Apple or Oracle, you cannot just give the engineers time to travel the entire world all the time. But if you say, okay, this is the week, contribute in that week, and that could be more, more efficient for the company, because then all the engineers do their work that week, and then they don't attend conferences anymore because the time is more efficiently planned. This is why the WWDC is still strong, because the iOS developers can ask the engineers how to do specific things. And I just thinking this is why, because if you have the information provided all the year is nice, but it is like less value than condensed, right? So I would.
But so anyway, if you look at Java today, I mean, I think there are, in terms of conference, 4 conference. There is the big Oracle conference, Code One. There's DevOps in Belgium, where there is always some kind of update. Then there's FOSDEM, also in Belgium. And then there's the JVM, the Java Language Summit, during the summer in California. I think those are the 4 milestone conference for Java/OpenJDK.
Yeah, still perfect. So I'm just telling that this have some value to have a focused event.
Yeah, having said that, there's also JFocus, where there's always some kind of update as well. So you're right. There are a lot of conference.
Yeah, nice. So you became then a Java evangelist or DevRel at Oracle.
Yeah,
you wanted to do this, or was it your idea, to participate more on Glassfish, or?
Yeah, I wanted to keep my developer-focused role. So that's why I moved to the Java EE organization. And also I was using Glassfish a lot. So it makes a lot of sense to move to that organization. Yeah.
Okay. You use it in field, in projects, Glassfish?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in the field with Glassfish. So it was just a continuation of what I was already doing.
And what was your impression back then from Java EE? So you like that or not? I mean, you were DevRel, but you could still hate it, So, but what is your relation to Java EE back then?
I liked it because back then we were around the end of E6, so beginning of E7. So it was really the good days of Java. It was not the G2E 1.3 or the G2E 1.4, where we had a lot of, we certainly had our shares of unneeded complexity.
Yeah. I'm still doing, a lots of backend Java stuff. Actually, this is what I'm doing. And thinking a lot about Java EE and Jakarta, whatever. And the point is that you still need the APIs at the backend, We can discuss whether application servers or runtimes or separation or not, fetch jars or not, but it didn't change a lot. This is the, even recently I'm creating, I have to deliver actually a front-end app, SPA offline, but I need some backend. So I still used, microprofile plus Jakarta EE parts of that because it was the easiest possible and most productive thing, and it runs in the cloud right now. So I always thought about this, and I would say it is really hard to criticize, because what I still enjoy the most in this thing is I have 2 APIs, and microprofile in Jakarta EE, and I just start hacking and I'm done. Yep. and whether the APIs, I need all the APIs or not, I really don't care. But it is very, very easy to start, and it's very. If you compare it to other possibilities, it is dream. It's a productivity dream, really. Yep. So and this is now. I also know, because we had in Germany last year, we had a survey, like the popularity of Quarkus, microprofile, and Jakarta EE and Spring Boot. They were compared somehow. So it was 2 years ago. And Spring Boot won. Quarkus was somehow close, and microprofile was less than Quarkus, and Jakarta EE was less than microprofile. But everyone was more or less popular. And I asked myself, what does it mean? Who runs Quarkus without microprofile? Also what they use Vertex behind the scenes and no standard API, or even no JAX-RS, no JSON-B, no JSON-P, and there's no such. Also I never was in such a project, so such service don't make sense at all, because you always need parts of Java EE. Not everything, but parts is a very common. JAX-RS, JSON-B, JSON-P, add inject with the micro-provide fault tolerance. You can get rid of EJBs, but it doesn't matter. You always need parts of that. Otherwise, you spend a lot of time fiddling around. So
I agree.
Yeah,
and let's face it, those days, as soon as we write an application, there's always some backend/cloud connection. So you always need to those core API to basically connect your application.
Yeah, exactly. So this is what I still like. Java EE, still microprofile, and Jakarta or Java EE is for me very similar. So okay, and how long is? I think the last time we met, you were still the Java EE evangelist. This was one of the last Java ones, I think, before it was renamed to Code One. I think.
I don't remember, but so how long I stay in that role? A few years. Then, basically until towards the end, I spent a lot of time behind the scenes to work on the E4J. So before it was public, I spent a lot of time on the transition to Java EE, to the Eclipse Foundation, even before it was decided that it would be the Eclipse Foundation.
Okay, and was it a lot of time?
Yeah.
So you spent lots of time with that?
Yeah, So I worked mostly on Java E8, Java E7, Java E8, and then the transition under the hood. And then I wanted to have...
How can you tell us, or is it confidential somehow, how the process started? That the transition began, or what?
Well, let's see. So one of the complaints that we had is that Java EE was not evolving quickly enough, which was, let's face it, it was true. But another issue that we were facing is that Oracle was doing most of the work. If you look at who was the spec lead for the different specification, well, it was, I think there were 2 spec led by Red Hat, one by IBM, that was the batch API, and the rest was led by Oracle. So we said, okay, maybe to reboot that whole space, we need to change how things work. So that's basically what triggered the open sourcing of the Java EE platform, and that will give a chance to more people to be involved. So, and that is what is happening. So you see that there are more companies involved in Jakarta than we ever had.
Yeah, this is a reasonable decision, but it's always hard in a large company to pull something off. There was some spark who ignited the idea. So the idea is always interesting.
It's hard and it's expensive. Open sourcing such a platform, it's not something trivial. You don't do that overnight. There are a lot of things to be done before you can actually open source the code. Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that.
No, I can imagine. It's crazy, the IP issues or whatever. And this was not about Oracle. It's about the other companies who actually contributed code, and there are no more existing. And you have, this is just crazy stuff. Lots of plumbing.
And then once it's open source, there are also a lot of plumbings that needs to be done on the other side. So in this case, on the Eclipse Foundation side, and that's basically what we had some kind of pause with. Well, during the transition, not a lot of technical innovation has been done, but now, now everything is done. I mean, the namespace is transition, everything is running on the Eclipse side, so it's really now that we will see technical progress being made. So that's something that we had to go through. That's a bit painful, but now it's behind us, so things can evolve.
But now you're no more involved in Jakarta anymore, right?
No, I'm looking at what is happening, but I'm not involved on a daily basis.
So after E4J, what happened? You switched the departments.
Yeah, so I wanted to have to change my mind because it was a lot of things. So I wanted to change my mind. So I went to the serverless organization, so the Oracle serverless organization.
Okay.
With the idea that I know Java a lot, but I would have a chance to work with other language. So I did a bit of Go, I did a bit of Python, a lot of infrastructure things, Dockers and so on. But at the end of the day, I realized that I was doing mostly Java.
Yeah. By the way, we met again because at the beginning, I was really excited about FN project. And I think you are somehow, in charge of the FN project, which is still alive, but it seems not to be that active anymore, right? So on GitHub, there is not lots of commits.
It's still alive, and it's used under the hood for Oracle functions.
Okay.
So yeah, it's still alive. The Oracle serverless commercial offering is based on FN.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I was involved in that. So I was doing community / DevRel stuff for that. But I realized that I was doing mostly Java.
Okay.
So I said, okay, it was a nice refresh, but let's go back to Java full time. And okay. I joined that 2 years ago, that organization, that newly DevRel organization that has been created in the Java platform group.
And this is okay. So you are part of Java platform group, right?
Yes. And it's quite unique. So we have a DevRel organization in the Java platform group. So that means that the engineering organization that is driving Java and OpenJDK has its own DevRel group. Most of the time when you see a DevRel organization, it's under a marketing department. This is not the case. We are in the engineering organization, and this gives us a lot of ability. Our colleagues are basically the people who are making Java and OpenJDK. So
the dream job for you, right? So dream came true, actually. You are working with the people who created Java at the beginning of your career, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that gives us the ability to do things such as, for example, the Inside Java podcast.
Which is great. So this is like, what I told you, the spirit of Java 1 inside a podcast.
Yeah. So it's really the place to be if you want to do DevRel stuff for Java, I believe.
And what's your tasks or job right now, except the podcast? So are you a DevRel? Are you a developer? Are you an engineer? What are you doing right now?
So my job, I'm a DevRel. My job is basically to travel the world and to speak to conference.
Very good.
So it's a tough job right now.
So stay at home and use your camera properly, right?
Yeah. Which is, let's face it, it's not the same to do a conference remotely, but yeah, I keep doing conference remotely.
Okay. And what topics you are covering?
Java, OpenJDK. So really Java IC, the core platform.
Basic stuff like how to use streams or what's your topics usually?
It really depends on the audience. I'm trying to talk more about what we have today. So Java 15, talking also about what is coming, Java 16, instead of focusing on stuff that we have seen years. Having said that, we're working on multiple aspects. So given that we didn't have the ability or the chance to travel, we basically had to change a little bit how we were working. We were reaching out. So that is why, and we also had more time because when you travel, you spend a lot of times, planes, hotel, taxis, and so on, jet lag. So we had more time. So one of the things that we did was inside Java first. So around Java 15 in September, we launched this site where basically people have the ability to track more closely what is happening around the OpenJDK / Java space. Mm-hmm. That is one of the complaints. So everything is open. So if you want to follow what is happening around the development of Java, just follow the OpenJDK mailing list.
So this is inside Java. This is like JavaSoft page is back, right? Reincarnation of the at the beginning was where stuff happened really. JavaSoft page you had go into it, you saw the news, you could log in to the news about Java. There was where stuff happened was JavaSoft at the very beginning.
Yeah, you're right. But so as I said, follow the OpenJDK mailing list. There's only two issues. There are a lot of mailing lists, and each mailing list there's a huge volumes. So if you look at Ambers, for example, there's maybe 25 mails a day. So there is no way you can track everything that is happening. So that was the idea with Inside Java. So we would just extract key information from those mailing lists or also from conference, because a lot of GPG engineers are talking to conference. So we want to make sure that whenever they give an update, the community is aware of that. So that's the one place to go if you want to know what is happening around Java and OpenJDK.
Yeah. So what a little bit better than Java.net was, right? Also a common portal to Java happenings, something like this.
Yeah. Yes, because we have one single focus, that is Java. The Java IC platform. So we are not really
Java
IC
platform, nothing else.
Yes.
Okay. Then even better. So very focused Java. Like Java.net just for Java IC.
Yeah. Having said that, there might be occasion where we talk a bit more broadly. For example, I don't know.
I understood.
Yeah.
Great. This is actually a great service to the community because with the OpenJDK, it's really hard to track. There's too much going on. There's a adopted JDK, OpenJDK, then there is the java.jdk.net or jdk.java.net. There are too many. And if I have to download new JDK, I always forget what to do. So I go through all the sites, and then at the end I know what to do. But this is it's a great idea.
There is a tip: just go to OpenJDK and then download it from there.
Yeah. Perfect. So you're basically building. You're improving the the community experience, how to consume Java, right?
Yep. How to consume and how to understand Java.
Yeah. And people should also follow your Twitter because from time to time you are tweeting your interesting jabs. So what I found is also nice. Okay, so perfect. So I would say, so great for introduction. What I really would like to do is to re-invite you back in a couple of weeks and talk exclusively about Java features.
Okay.
This is I would really love to because what's your favorite features of just freestyle chat about Java SE only, and now finally after 10 years I know who you are actually, right? With the podcast. Perfect. So where people can find you on Twitter and all the links you have for us.
So all the links. So on Twitter it's pretty easy. Delabassi, SSE. Mm-hmm. And then I would just say inside.java. So that's the actual URL. So https /inside.java or inside.java/podcast.
Perfect.
So I'm posting that podcast, and that would be the main links.
Okay. Thank you a lot.
You're welcome.